I am 26 and my ex-wife is 24. We were married for about 3.5 years. We had no children. Everything started to fall apart when her former colleague casually informed me that my wife, Laika, was having an affair with her boss. I knew this guy, a slippery guy you just don't trust. This colleague also showed himself not out of noble motives. It turned out that he was caught divulging company secrets to competitors for cash and was fired without much ceremony. Now, to get even, he blackened the name of his former boss. Naturally, I brushed it off, pretended not to believe him, and just said, "Thanks, but no." But the fact is that everything started to fall apart. Late nights at work, corporate events that came out of nowhere, and those occasional business trips that didn't quite add up. So yes, I was stunned. And here I am, divorced. Laika did not even make a half-hearted attempt to establish a relationship. She just left everything as it was. Meanwhile, there is another side to the story with Camila, the boss's wife, who is also in the process of divorcing her husband. But considering that they have children and a whole business empire, it will take some time. And yes, when it's over, she'll be pretty well off, but I'm worried about her, not her money. It's funny. She said that everything would come to this, and she was right. After everything fell into place, Dylan kicked Laika out of the company, and she tried to come back to me, but I had already moved in with her. She went to her parents in the city. Camila and I plan to live together and see how things go. She works as a payroll accountant for a construction company and earns a solid income. It turns out that everyone around knew what was going on, but they were silent, afraid to risk their jobs. And this guy, I think he had nothing more to lose, although it's still strange that he turned to me and not to the boss's wife. He probably didn't have the courage for a real confrontation. But hey, I wasn't going to lose my temper over one word from him. But how exactly did I find out about Simon? In fact, there were other signs. Laika got a new haircut, spent money on clothes that didn't match our budget, not on my salary as a bank guard. She had sudden mood swings, outbursts of anger over nothing, then these sudden, strange moments of affection, or just complete apathy, as if she were somewhere else entirely. I'm tired. Not now. I have a headache. That's when I decided to do a little detective work on my own. One night, while she was in the shower, I grabbed her phone. She usually kept it close, but this time, she'd left it charging in the bedroom. I expected something, but it was clean. No strange messages, calls, or anything suspicious. Even checked her chats with friends, but she'd either deleted everything perfectly or just kept it all off her phone. After that, I dug through her purse, hoping maybe there was a second phone in there. No luck. Then I went through her laptop, but all I found were work docs, no pictures, no contacts, nothing incriminating. But then I came across something, maybe a clue. Rummaging through her bag, I found a receipt for a room at the Renaissance Hotel, which is located about 25 kilometers from our city. Of course, this is not ironclad proof. She could always say that she went to pay the crew at the construction site and was too tired to go home, so she stayed the night. If I was going to stand up to her, I needed something reliable. I couldn't afford to look paranoid or a jealous fool. I thought about forgetting about it, but the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. In the end, I realized that my only option was to hire a private investigator. But when I approached him, I was politely refused. Everyone knew exactly who Laika and her boss were, and no one wanted to risk getting involved in this case. It just wasn't worth it. Dylan, 44, runs one of the largest construction companies in the region. He is married and has 2 children. The elder is in his first year of technical college, and the younger is in a high-class gymnasium. His wife, 37-year-old Camila, formerly owns a design studio, although in fact, it is an ordinary advertising agency, and I decided that if no one else was interested, I would do it myself. I rented a car to avoid attracting attention and borrowed a drone with a camera and microphone from a friend at work. And then one evening my wife called and said she would stay late at the construction site. That was my signal. I drove to her office and staked it out, waited hours, but sure enough, that evening, she walked out with the boss, climbed into his car, and they drove off together. The destination, the Renaissance Hotel. I followed them discreetly. The place was practically empty. When they went inside, I followed them in. And for a little extra tip, I got the room number. It was room 38, which I knew from the numbering meant the third floor, and since it was even, it faced the back. I took the drone around the back, set it up, and found their window. They started off with champagne, chocolate, fruit, just chatting. But then the mood shifted, and soon enough, it was all kisses, embraces, changing rooms, a whole setup straight out of, well, something like German porn. That was it, the final confirmation. The shock of seeing it all firsthand left me stunned. I don't even remember how I got home. My mind was a jumble, like the ground was slipping away beneath me. At first, I wanted to storm into his office and just knock the smug look off his face. But realistically, I knew his bodyguards would just beat me down and toss me out like trash, or worse, call the cops. So I held back, deciding to deal with my wife later and toss her out of my life for good. But before that, I had one more plan: to tear his family apart, one piece at a time. After watching the footage from my drone, I headed straight to his wife's ad agency and laid it all out for her. Told her how her husband had abused his power and wrecked my marriage. I showed her everything I'd gathered as proof. Candila's quite the striking woman herself, a blonde with a commanding presence, and despite her being older, I couldn't help but feel drawn to her. Oddly, though, she wasn't particularly surprised by any of it. She comforted me, yes, but mainly, she seemed to pity Laika, calling her naive. Turns out, Candela had long accepted that her husband was a womanizer. My wife was just the latest in a string of affairs, and certainly not the last. Candela assured me that before long, likely sooner than I thought, he'd move on to a new conquest, and Laika would be cast aside, both in love and at work. Candela asked me to send her a video explaining that she and Dylan were more business partners than anyone else. Love had not been a part of their marriage for ages. Armed with all my evidence, I turned to Laika, and she didn't even bother to deny it. She looked at me coldly and called me a loser and a beggar, saying that this was not the life she signed up for. According to her, she had a bright future ahead of her, with Dylan. On the same day, she packed up her things and left. I didn't feel anything special, maybe just a little relief. After that, I kept in touch with Camila, started seeing her more often, and soon we started a real relationship. Strangely enough, this is what protected me from Dylan's negative reaction. Camila warned him that if anything happened to me, she had enough compromising material on his financial schemes to bury him.